Hello and good morning, everybody. Before we start today, I want to do something that I haven't done in a while, which is say hello to some new countries who have joined. But first, real quick, we got some new cover art. I want to thank my super talented friend Emma back in New Hampshire for designing the world's first blood butter pancakes, I believe. Please let me know how you feel about it. I wanted to do something with a bit more pop, a little more color, and a lot less drab. But please be honest. Is it okay? Alright, we also have some new listeners we got Singapore, Brazil, Bulgaria, Guatemala, and Nigeria. Such a pleasure to have each and every one of you out there. First of all, and forgive me for my American ignorance yet again, I had no clue where Bulgaria was on the map. And two, wow, is it an extraordinary place. Bulgaria, it's home to lowlands, plains, valleys, mountains, mountain lakes, massive rivers, coastal lakes, the coast of the Black Sea, 3 national parks, 11 nature reserves, and 7 distinct zoological zones. Wow. And in a desperate attempt to link my Bulgarian rabbit hole research to this podcast, I searched for murders or murderers within the country, and I was not disappointed. In fact, I struggled to pick between some of these horrific tales. But today, this is Bulgaria's first recorded serial killer. The killer with the ads. My name is Eli, and this is Murder in the Morning. My sources for today come heavily from Wikipedia and CBS News, and any others I will put down below. In 1917, a Bulgarian man named Sokrat Kirshveng was hired as an armed security guard at the 10th Military Hospital located in the capital of Bulgaria, Sofia. Here, Sokrat fell in love with another hospital employee, Tinka Nikolova. And forgive me if I pronounce these names wrong. My Bulgarian isn't what it used to be. Tinka was young, smart, beautiful, and extremely religious. Because of this last piece, she initially rejected Sokrat's marriage proposal. They were desperately in love with each other, but she couldn't marry him because Sokrat was still married to a previous lover at the time. Desperate, Sokrat Kirshveng slowly conceived a cunning scheme over the next 2 years to solve his problem. His past lover / current legal wife was Vangelia Yurdanova, and Sokrat had met her 7 years ago in 1910 in the capital of Sofia. She was a full-time tailor, and the two immediately fell for each other. Vangelia even invited him to live with her in a small suburban house behind a sugar factory. According to Wikipedia, quote, one day, Kirshveng returned home from work seemingly panicked. He explained to his lover that he had stolen a large sum of money from the hospital and that his scheme would soon be discovered. Vangelia then offered that both of them flee the country, and, taking this chance that was offered, Kirshveng accepted. He instructed Yurdanova to write 2 letters, one to her mother and one to him. In the former, she explained to her mother that she had stolen $15,000, or leva, their equivalent, from her lover and had fled to Serbia. While in the second letter, Kirshveng had to show it to the authorities and claim that this woman, his lover, had robbed him and fled. In the meantime, she would leave for Serbia, where she would wait for Kirshveng, wait for Sokrat, end quote. Of course, this is all an elaborate ruse. None of it is real, but Vangelia Yurdanova loved this man and trusted him, and would do anything for him. But before any of this could happen, the pair had to retrieve this so-called stolen money. So, on July 12th of 1919, under the cover of darkness, Sokrat led Vangelia Yurdanova, his wife, to a cemetery where he claimed that he had buried this money. Faking tiredness or an ailment, Sokrat asked his wife to start digging alone. Quote, when he decided that the hole was deep enough, he took out his service weapon and shot her in the back of the head, burying her body afterwards, end quote. A perfect example of digging your own grave. Okay, so he's gotten rid of his current wife, Vangelia Yurdanova, but the problem of his religious lover remains. She wouldn't accept murder as a reason for their separation. So this lie continues. The next day, Sokrat went back to work at the hospital, but he wasn't acting like himself. He appeared in a daze of sadness, claiming to Tinka and other employees that Vangelia had scammed him and fled with another lover. As far as murderers go, it's not the dumbest excuse, as he had instructed Vangelia to write letters saying exactly that. So if anybody questioned him, he could show them her letter, essentially. This ploy worked, and Tinka finally agreed to marry Sokrat. Now, here, and I mean, he's a murderer, so I'm not supposed to, but I don't understand this line of reasoning. So after she's like, yes, yay, I'll marry you, Sokrat then admits, oops, actually, I have another previous wife from before you, and this one has children. Whoops. Oopsie whoopsies, daddy made a fucky wucky. This man, Sokrat, is an onion in the worst way possible. This third woman and his first wife, Alenka, lived back in Samokov, Samokov, which was about 40 miles southeast of the capital, Sofia. Sokrat abandoned his first family, Alenka, and his 2 children under a false promise of returning. He was sick of them, essentially, and disappeared to the city of Sofia, where he met his second wife, and then his now lover, Tinka. So he came up with yet another plan. Sokrat was desperate to legally marry Tinka. And forgive me because, again, his lies and reasoning become a bit hard to follow at this point. Quote, his next wedding would be a Muslim one. He convinced Tinka that his mother was Muslim and he had decided to adopt her faith, repeating that, quote, there was only one God and that she should become a Muslim too. Eventually, the Mufti in Sofia blessed their engagement, with Sokrat and Tinka changing their names to Shakir and Aish, respectively, end quote. He must have been a real charmer. She was already overtly religious in another religion, and he was able to convince her to change just for him. So you'd think Sokrat should finally be happy at this point, right? Wrong. His first wife, Alenka, and their 2 children couldn't escape his mind. It bothered him knowing that they could be happy without him back in that small town. So it was time for another plan. Yes. According to Wikipedia, later that same year, he hired a cart driver named Dimitar Svetkov to drive him to Samokov. I hope I'm saying that okay. Where he told his family, his abandoned family, that they were going to go live with him in the capital. He's like, I made a bunch of money, I'm rich now, come live with me in the capital. On the way back, though, near the village of Pancharevo, Kirshveng told the driver that he and his wife would go on a walk down a nearby path, and Svetkov then took the children to the capital. They would go on without them. Under the guise of showing Alenka his newly bought cherry garden down this beaten path, he tricked her into going towards the bushes, where he killed her using his adze, end quote. And it's ADZE, adze. It's almost like an axe, but the blade is perpendicular to the handle, and I don't know why, but this feels so much more gruesome than a typical blade or axe. Imagine like a small, one-handed garden hoe, almost. When the driver returned to bring Sokrat and his wife to Sofia to meet their children, he noticed that Sokrat was alone. But he came up with another elaborate lie and hid his bloodied weapon on the backside of the driver's cart and convinced him to go on without her. This next part makes me hate him more than I do most killers. Quote, when they arrived at their destination, Sokrat immediately went to the police and blamed the cart driver Svetkov for killing his wife. The authorities found the bloody weapon on his cart, and the court sentenced this innocent cart driver to death and later hanged him. End quote. So he continued to live with his wife Tinka, or Aisha, however I said that, if you will, in Sofia, his current wife none the wiser, and his children essentially abandoned. But as history repeats itself, so does Sokrat. Soon he was tired of his no longer fresh and shiny new wife and decided to kill her too. He invited Tinka on a walk, and when they reached a secluded area, Sokrat began to strangle her. Tinka managed to scream loud enough, and the police were called, leading to his arrest. Finally, Sokrat was sentenced to death for the attempted murder of Tinka, but the judge in this case thought he knew better. He said that if Sokrat died, his kids would grow up penniless, which they already were. So he commuted Sokrat's sentence to only 17 years and was required to send any money he made in jail to his children. What the judge should have done, in my opinion, is that exact same thing, but with a life sentence. I don't understand how he goes from death to 17 years. But he didn't, and in 1937, Sokrat Kirshveng was released from prison, still penniless. Quickly, he fell back into his old ways. Sokrat visited his elderly aunt at her store under the pretense of returning money to her. But as soon as she turned her back to offer Sokrat some sweets in return, he bludgeoned her with a proper axe this time before scouring the room for money. Unsatisfied with what he found, Sokrat sauntered upstairs in search of more, where a similar scene unfolded. His 85-year-old uncle was lying in bed when Sokrat burst in, demanding money, of which the man had none. Quote, however, Sokrat noticed that he had a golden pocket watch, an honorary gift from service as a volunteer during the Battle of Shipka Pass, which sounds like a crazy story all in of itself. When the man fought back, Sokrat killed him with an axe. The bloodied Kirshveng then took the watch and a few other items that he thought he could sell, put up a sign saying that the shop would be closed for 10 days, and promptly left. End quote. However, one of the regular customers noted that this store was never closed, and promptly alerted the authorities to do what the Bulgarian equivalent of a welfare check is. Inside, authorities found the 2 bodies and even noticed the uncle's missing watch. So investigators questioned local pawn shops and watchmakers, asking if anyone had sold that watch. As luck would have it, one of them did. And when investigators showed the pawn shop owner a picture of Sokrat, the man instantly recognized him. So again, just less than a month after his release, Sokrat Kirshveng was arrested for murder. His second trial, which began in February of 1937, was a massive spectacle, drawing in huge crowds this time around. And this time around, he decided to confess to everything. And for over 3 hours, he detailed every murder over the past few decades. His first wife, his second wife, his attempted murder of a third wife, and then his aunt and uncle. Subsequently, Sokrat was sentenced to death by hanging and was executed that spring under the cover of night. And that, my friends, is the story of Bulgaria's first recorded serial killer. A truly terrible, terrible person. I hope you enjoyed it, though. I think it might be new for some of you out there. I don't remember this at all. But again, thank you for taking the time to listen in today. If you'd like a bit more, I invite you to stick around after the music for an extra story and an update on the Delphi murders. Okie dokie. Bye-bye. Ooh, before I forget, this morning I accidentally said cock in front of a baby. Yep. I was on my way to a coffee shop to finish writing this episode, and a license plate caught my eye. Now, typically, I hate vanity plates and usually find myself mocking them, and today was no different. The plate said, K-H-A-C-K. So naturally, I sounded it out, and I was alone, so I sounded it out loud. As soon as I finished saying cock, I looked up and locked eyes with the baby and its mother. I just hope she didn't think I was talking to them. Just shouting cock at a mom and kid. Okay. I actually want to talk about two things today, like I said before. If you follow true crime even a little bit, you've heard of the unsolved Delphi, Indiana murders. Two teens, Libby, who was 14, and Abby Williams, who was 13, were killed while hiking near a railroad bridge. The only evidence released in this case over the past 7 years was a grainy photo of a Caucasian man and a snippet of audio of him telling the girls to go, quote, down the hill. Anywho, 50-year-old Delphi resident Richard Allen was arrested and charged with their murders in 2022, and his trial has finally begun. Finally, we need an end to this case. This story is probably the one that has haunted me most over the years. I hate hearing about it because of how fucked up it is. I don't know why it sticks out so much among other tragedies, but I hope this trial will end with a satisfying conclusion. So please keep an eye out for updates on that. And last but not least, Abercrombie and Fitches get stitches. Yes. Titled, Former Abercrombie and Fitch CEO Mike Jeffries Arrested on Sex Trafficking, Interstate Prostitution Charges, by Jesse Zanger of CBS News. Quote, former Abercrombie, I hate saying that word, and Fitch CEO Mike Jeffries was arrested Tuesday on charges of sex trafficking and engaging in interstate prostitution. The indictment contains more than a dozen counts and includes allegations of sex trafficking between December of 2008 and March of 2015. Jeffries allegedly leveraged his position as CEO of the company to lure young men into sex by suggesting that they could become models for the fashion company. Jeffries and his two co-defendants, Matthew Smith and James Jacobson, were arrested Tuesday morning. Smith and Jeffries were in a relationship. Quote, powerful individuals for too long have trafficked and abused for their own sexual pleasure young people with few resources and a dream of securing a successful career in fashion or entertainment, Breon Price, a U.S. attorney for the Southern District of New York, said. To anyone who thinks they can exploit and coerce others by using this so-called casting couch system, this case should serve as a warning. Prepare to trade that couch for a bed in federal prison. Yes! Hell yeah. A U.S. attorney using the term casting couch? Oh my god. Can I vote for him? Just kidding. The investigation involved the FBI and the NYPD's Special Victims Unit. SVU. Oh. The indictment alleges that from approximately 2008 to 2015, the defendants operated in international sex trafficking and prostitution business. Prosecutors allege Jeffries and Smith, quote, paid for dozens of men to travel both domestically and internationally for the purpose of engaging in commercial sex acts. Jacobson allegedly acted as a recruiter and had tryouts with potential candidates, which, quote, typically required that the candidate first engage in commercial sex acts with him before moving on to Jeffries. Prosecutors allege Jeffries, Smith, and Jacobson used force, fraud, and coercion to traffic those men for their own gratification. They say victims weren't told about the sexual activity that would be required of them at various, quote, sex events. Staff at these sex events supplied those attending with NDAs to sign and took their phones to maintain secrecy. And then they plied them full with alcohol, muscle relaxants known as poppers, lubricant, Viagra, condoms, and many other items. Prosecutors allege that on several occasions, when victims did not or could not consent, quote, Jeffries and Smith violated the bodily integrity of these men by subjecting them or continuing to subject them to invasive sexual and violent contact by body parts and other objects, end quote. The alleged sex trafficking and prostitution took place over the course of years. They spent millions of dollars on a massive infrastructure to support this operation. The indictment lists 15 victims, but prosecutors allege the case actually involves dozens and dozens of men. Jeffries is expected to appear in a Palm Beach, Florida courtroom Tuesday afternoon. Another defendant is scheduled to be in court Tuesday in Minnesota after being arrested in Wisconsin. Jeffries' attorney, Brian Bieber, said he would, quote, respond in detail to the allegations after the indictment is unsealed and when appropriate, but planned to do so in the courthouse, not the media. Jeffries had previously been named in a class action lawsuit that accused him of running a, quote, widespread sex trafficking operation. That lawsuit claimed he allegedly used his position at the company to prey on young men by suggesting the company would hire them as models. The lawsuit alleged Jeffries lured these young men to his estate in the Hamptons for casting interviews. Once there, he allegedly made them sign NDAs, strip down, take drugs, and perform sexual acts with himself and Smith. Jeffries became CEO of this company in 1992 and left in 2014 with a reported retirement package of over $25 million. Abercrombie and Fitch said it had no comment on the arrest, and the company has previously said it hired a law firm to conduct an independent investigation into the allegations. End quote. Tisk, tisk, tisk. I knew I never shopped there for a reason. I didn't want to get diddled by the CEO of Abercrombie and Fitches Get Stitches. Well, that is all I have today. Thank you to anyone who stuck around until the very end. Your support is truly appreciated. Have a wonderful rest of your week. Don't shop at Abercrombie, and I'll see you next Tuesday. Okie dokie. Bye-bye. Love you. Fucking shit.